Well, I was kind of brought up on the Shackleton story. I come from the Falkland Islands. My great grandparents, they were hosts to Shackleton when he stayed in the Falklands. We had a bed and breakfast establishment down there called the First and Last, and Shackleton and two of his colleagues stayed with us. But I was pretty much weaned on the story of the Endurance. I remember age 9 or 10, I was given a book about Shackleton as a Sunday school prize, and I actually read it. So Shackleton has always loomed large in my life. We found the Endurance on the 5th of March last year, and it was our second search. We had been through a very difficult period on the ship. Temperatures had absolutely plummeted towards minus 40 on the back deck. The ship was struggling, so were the team. It was not looking good. Winter was upon us. The ice was getting very pressured and muscular and aggressive. And then suddenly, just when we thought we were about to have to give up, we had two brilliant days. And it was during those 2 days that we found the Endurance. I was actually off the ship at the time. I was out walking to an iceberg which was locked into the floe with us. And I got back on the ship about half an hour after it was found, and I was standing there getting my kit off, and a young cadet from the bridge suddenly came up to me and said, the Captain Bengo asked me to convey his respects and to say that your presence is required on the bridge immediately. And all of a sudden the tannoy system crackled to life, and I was with a friend of mine called John, and the tannoy said, bound and shears, or shears and bound to the bridge immediately. And we just dropped everything and shot up there, and our first thoughts were quite negative. We thought that maybe we'd lost the search vehicle, or worse, that there'd been a terrible accident or something. And then on the way up the bridge, I at the corner of one eye, I saw one of the French data analysts standing in a doorway, and he was smiling. And I knew that if we'd just lost one of our vehicles, or if there'd been a terrible accident, he would not be smiling. So everybody was jumping up and down and whooping and punching the air and slapping each other on the back. And yeah, there were a few tears, but it was a best moment in my life as an archaeologist. No, well, best moment full stop in my life. It was just incredible. You could see the paintwork on the timbers, and where the paint had rubbed off, where the rubbing strake was, you could see the grain of the wood underneath. It was just utterly amazing. And we approached the wreck from the stern. So the first thing I saw was the ship's rudder, which shouldn't have been there, just laying under the tuck of the stern. And then we kind of elevated the cameras. And the next thing I see is the ship's name, Endurance, sort of arced across the stern. And beneath the ship's name was a 5-pointed star, which we all knew was the North Star, the Polaris, after which the Norwegians who built the ship had originally named the ship. And then we went up and over the taffrail, and it just got better and better. We suddenly found ourselves looking down into the well deck at the very stern of the ship, and there was the ship's wheel absolutely intact. You could see the king spoke, and behind it was the ship's compass. The binnacle was there. A depth sounding machine was there. And there was a doorway opened, a companionway, which went down to the accommodation deck, and you could see pigeonholes above the door where all the signal flags had been stored for running up the gaff. And then to one side there were, and this is the bit that really got to me, there were two portholes, and I knew straight away that that was Shackleton's cabin. And I knew that between the two portholes that there was attached a picture frame, and that within the picture frame there was a copy of Rudyard Kipling's poem If. And I knew it was still there, and I knew it would still be legible, and oh my God, the thought of what was still in that cabin. So there she lies beneath the ice, 3,000 meters down, in just an utterly brilliant state of preservation.
Tell me why people should read your book.
I wrote a book. It's called Ship Beneath the Ice. I believe it's available at bookshops here. I've written books before which have just died the moment they went to press, kind of thing. So I was kind of expecting much the same would happen with this book. But lo and behold, it just took off before Christmas. It was a bestseller. It's now into its 8th edition. It only came out in October. And I know it's not me and my writing skills. They barely exist. It's because I was a lucky guy sitting on an incredible story. The Shackleton Endurance story. I couldn't go wrong with that one.